So welcome to channel Sanjiv070. So in this video we are basically going to have a tutorial over Python. Like, I received many requests to make a full-fledged tutorials on Python, and there will be a couple of videos which involves directly or indirectly in Python, so that you could improve your knowledge in Python. So we're basically going to use Google Collab. As everyone knows, it's a free and open source IDE provided by Google based on Linux machine. So what we are going to do is we are going to practice Python, and more frequently videos will be coming. That's my promise to you. And yeah, let's start. And now let's go to, if someone is new to Python, so it's best to go W3 schools. I suppose it's the best way to learn. So let's directly focus on the Python programming. So for those who don't know, Python is something which is a programming language. It is a language from which you communicate to computer. It's a programming language used to communicate to computer. So I think this is the most certain part of Python, that it is most user friendly and it is a most capable of doing lot more things than every other programming language demands. So without wasting time, let's get started to our whole first video of Python tutorial. That is, this would be a series so that everyone could enjoy it and have over issues. Do tell me where you want to improve and where you want me to just start the video regularly. I'll just carry forward the thoughts from your mind. I'll just look into it. So for those who don't know about Python, let's little explore about Python. So as I basically use Microsoft Whiteboard, it's one of the most widespread used for teaching. So let's get started. So I suppose everyone would have heard the name of Python. It's a programming language. Okay, so used in computers. So this Python is nothing but it's a high level language which is used by computers for communicating, and it's basically used in field of ML, AI, and little about IoT projects too. So this is the kind of introduction which I want to give you about Python language. So without wasting time, let's move on to Handson Experience. So this is a W3 School's website and everyone could go and visit over it. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to have a nice guide through you. Like, first, just let's move to print statement. Okay, so print statement is something which is used to print something in Python. Like everyone knows, it's hello world, from where the program starts of every programmer community. So let's move on to it and let's see how we can learn from it. So this is nothing but a string, and to execute this string, first you need to connect to this Google Collab account so that it could be verified, and the Google provides you storage, and by clicking this run icon you can run it. And as you can see, print statement is nothing but it executes the command that is being displayed inside it, especially a string, which helps you to just print the statement as it is. So now let's know, as you know about print, in Python we basically use something called data types. So data types used in Python, it's nothing but again a very formal discussion: int, char, float. You can also move to long. You can also have an idea over uh, strings. You can also use many more, and this is endless. But these are the major primitive data types that is being used in Python, and I hope have a look everyone have a look over the things which I basically have, that I expect that everyone should have. Just because you are new to programming doesn't mean that you need to know everything. Everything comes from practice, and hopefully we can do it. So this is the string that we are going to have over here. So as I said, like, this is called primitive data types. So what do you mean by primitive data types? Primitive data types is something which is used by all other languages like C, C++, Java, etc. also, and something we have modern data types also. So modern data types include list, tuple, and one such is dictionary. So everyone would know that what is listable dictionary. So I'll come to one by one. So like every language has something, a data type, which is used to store the data, which is used to express the data, which is used to exhibit the type of data that is being executed in the programs, exhibit in the variable declarations, exhibit in the orchestra of the programs that is being developed over by the developers. So now let's move on to tutorials. As you can see, the first program is hello world, then they are gone to file handling, etc. It is a complete different dimension from where we are going to explore. So without wasting started, let's go directly to Python comments. Like, oh okay, we can move to Python syntax also. So basically, as I've already told about the Python syntax, it's nothing but you just have a single variable. Like, I hope everyone knows how to declare a variable. Like in Python we can just declare like this without specifying even the type of what the variable I'm going to store. Like I'm saying enter the value, and I'm just going to print it. In this way I can print the values using a variable. Then what's the use of this input? It's basically used to take input from the user, but when you are going to specify the things, you are going to specify the arrays. It's not mandatory to put this input, but what happens is when you specify that this is an input, then Python interpreter understands that this is an input statement which we need to ask from the user. Apart from this, there is something called indentation. So when I execute this statement, it will ask me for value, and I will say 5, and it will just print the value. So I haven't exhibited any amount of other snippet. So in this case, when I'll directly have the same code over here, let's not give it in a string, let's give it this attempt. Okay, so enter the number, it's enough. And here what I'm going to use it, I'm going to use an if condition. If n is greater than 5, okay, then okay, but now you see the cursor has jumped from here to here. So what happened is this is called indentation, and if you don't follow this indentation, Python gives you an error called indentation error, which is nothing but like this they have told. So this is an indentation error which blocks the code of usability, and which also uses the different kinds of completed aspect of a code. So now what happens is we can now again write print statement as you said, and we can again just print n. So this will print n. But see, next the cursor also moved to down itself. So what it means is Python understands by itself, like you are executing an if statement, and it clearly indicates that it's more than enough and it's more than communicating for you to have a convenience over the if statement. So if I'm printing else and I am saying okay, just print nothing, it's print. So now what happens is when I execute this cell, as you would see, it will again ask me a number. I will enter it, and if the number is greater than 5, I haven't specified what to do, so again the compilation has stopped. When I again execute it, if I enter the number 10, see, it's printing me 10. That means this number is greater than 5, and this part of code is executed, and this is the logic for any number greater than 5, and this is nothing but just printing it. So these are the basics of any if else conditions, etc. We'll come to it in very detail as in a couple of videos, but to the basic extent we can see that this is the kind of format from where we get the input from the user, and this is the tutorial format from where we have something to indulge ourselves and to print the value. So now without wasting time, let's move on to some aspect of comments. Okay, so now we'll have a overlook for Python comments. Okay, so Python comments is nothing but which is used into hash. As you can see, if I write some program here and if I say like n equal to int input something, and I say print n, and if I say to comment this, so what happens is it comments itself. That means it wouldn't execute the statement that is being displayed inside the comments. So this hash indicates single level comment, multi-level comment, so more than one comments can be also done. So what happens is when I execute this cell, it will only take the input. Okay, it's type error. Okay, so there's a bug here, so I'll just, okay, I'll do it like this. And this, I suppose this won't generate a bug for me. Same. So I now I'm entering a number, so it won't display just because I have commented the statement. So simply it will say, it will throw an error. Okay, this is commented and we couldn't do it. Fine. So this is the basics of print and how to take an input, just a basic latitude and longitudinal view of if else and the print statement. Now let's directly move on to something called, just a minute. Okay, so there are many constraints that we need to cover. Okay, so again I'll go here, and as I said, when you give like this int, you specify the input variable data type here itself. What if I do and string, I take an input from there here, it will be also executed, but this time the n would be something assigned to as a string. What happens is in this type, n is being directly assigned the variable to a string type variable, but in above case we can see that this has been assigned to an int. Likewise you can do for float. Okay, which is for fractional values, decimal values. As you can see here, the values is been displayed, and from here you can learn. And we can also use long for longer values. Okay, for log can be also used for log values, and character is not in Python. We are using string here. We can also use boolean for returning true false. So this would return, like, the boolean is nothing but it used to return true or false. If the value is true, then it will return true, or else it will return false. So these are the kind of ways from which you can implement that what the value is to be given and how it's been emphasized over the Python syntax. So when I execute this code, what I would get is, I would get simply, if I put 7, it would simply return me true because its return type is boolean. So this boolean is something which is used to return the statement and which is used to execute the things in R that way. So now go to this basic syntaxes, how to just write comments. I have told you how to do this. So now go to comments. So there are many comments, as you can see: hash, single level comment, multi-level comment, that is being commenting more than one line and just printing it. And about the Python variables, so variable is nothing but, as you all know, like, variable is a keyword which is used to define something and which is used to take an input from the parameter and take an input from the local, or take an input from the user, where it is also used to store the data. And it's something which can be, it's something which is being based upon four major principles. Like, there are four main rules to frame an integer or frame a variable. That is, first one is you can name a variable on specific of its underscore. You can term it as like this, underscore. You can also use string as name of variables, but you can't start like this with an alphabets alphanumeric. You need to instead you can use an alphabetical. You can't name the variable like this. So these are certain conditions from where the variables need to be named, etc. I hope all would be clear about this variable conditions, but something is relatively missing. Like in Python, what we do is we basically focuses on the data type, on the return type of the variable rather compared to data type of which we are initializing. What happens is, as I told, like when we execute this statement, we will automatically get only true value here, because whatever value you enter, it's automatically going to return you true, just because the values are same and the return type is boolean. The same in the case of this. When you assign the variable, you specify the data type that you need to provide to the user as well as to the conditions. So this is about variables, and I hope like everyone is created and how you can do this and all. There is a kind of variables called, when you give it in double quotes, like I am giving ABC. So when you give like this, it takes nothing but it's a string, and when you give this type of variable, it's an int, and when you give this kind of variables, it's float, and when you give this is a long, it is also a float, but this is a decimal value specification that allows you with more than two decimals or more than decimals. So mostly people avoid it. So as you see, int, char, float and string is also there. Then we can move on to variable types. As I mentioned that variable types are there. In our next video we are going to cover about list tuple dictionaries in a detailed manner, so that you could also get an overview. And besides, I'll drop the link of W3 Schools Python so that you could visualize yourself in a way, and you could have a tutorials there, and how to just case and how to practice and all. So, and one more thing, like Python is always a case sensitive and typecasting language. Like if in the case I am printing n, the compiler would get confused which n to print. I hope it prints the every integer that I have executed. No, it has only printed the integer value plus float value. So this is the case from where if I write type of, that I want to know the type of the variable that I am passing, it clearly means that I am interested in knowing what type of variables I am passing. Then it indicates that it's okay. I think one more space is needed. Okay, so guys, programming is everything new to me as well as to you. But since our channel community is growing, so that I could get enough substances and enough support from your side, then definitely I'll be putting more amount of videos and efforts to indulge you and to educate your people. So when you put like this, normally we get in the form of integer. So why I was getting the errors previously, what happened is I previously didn't specify what type of integer I'm going to pass and what is the parameter that I'm going to guess over it. I was just simply telling the compiler or interpreter to execute it on the basis of my past experiences. So I have deleted the amount of couple of repetitions that occurred over n as a parameter, and finally I have reached over the type. So this way you can also specify the type of a parameter, and you can see the return type, you can see the integer variable here. So this way we are going to cover something which is nothing but our complete Python playlist tutorials. I think this would be around 20 to 30 videos, and every videos I request you to all to watch so that you could get a clear idea of how to execute and how to paste something in Python. And so that's all for this video. Hope you like. Please like this video, share with your friends, do subscribe the channel if you really like the content that I put. Let's meet up on next video. So thanks for watching. Thanks.